on EPA's Safer Choice program and advances in the program. And we'll do a Q&A at the end. So I'm Brittany Mundell, I'm the Associate Director of PPRC. And we have an excellent and knowledgeable panel here of speakers that you will hear from in a moment. They're all crammed in together because they're all friends. So first we have Kendra Tyler, who is with the Environmental Protection Agency and serves on the Materials Management and Stewardship team at EPA's Region 10 office. Kendra oversees the creation and implementation of outreach strategies, technical assistance, policy advocacy, and more for both the Regional Safer Choice Program and the School Food Share Program. After that, we will hear from Lisa Cox, who is a nationally recognized environmental leader, an artist, and a passionate professional who works at the Oregon DEQ as their Senior Toxics Reduction Analyst. She focuses on administering a statewide intern program, which we've heard about, we know about, we'll hear more about tomorrow, all of its successes.
And she's a rock star.
She is a rock star. She also works on funding toxics reduction research, supporting EPA's Safer Choice program, conducting training, and building community partnerships. And then we have David Walla, who is the head senior scientist for Defuncify, who is a product formulator and Safer Choice partner based in Eugene, Oregon. He has a PhD in biochemistry and has developed a growing number of product formulations that have received the EPA Safer Choice certification. And last, we have Roger McFadden, who will kick us off and moderate this session. Roger is a 3-time EPA Safer Choice Partner of the Year awardee with over 25 years of industry experience, innovating and formulating a broad portfolio of cleaning products for brands and retailers. He's currently President and Chief Science Officer at McFadden and Associates, and previously served as Vice President and Senior Scientist at Staples, where he created Staples' exclusive line of sustainable earth cleaning products. He currently chairs a committee to advance green chemistry and the EPA Design for the Environment Formulator Initiatives with GC3. So, also as questions come up, you should have little Post-it notes on your tables. So please write down your questions and hold them up, and I will come around and get them for our Q&A. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Roger.
Thank you, Brittany. Well, see, we don't have any yet. Hold on. I don't do slides. Yeah. Yeah, good. Thank you. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. So isn't this great? This is a community that I love. I mean, I get a chance to speak at a lot of groups and so forth and business, but this is what I love the most. Because you're the people getting it done. You're the people that are every day facing the challenges that we have in our world. And we have some challenges. And we have to accept that reality. But you're working on it. And it's wonderful to be part of that community and to have this fantastic panel today that's going to teach us and talk to us and update us a lot on EPA Safer Choice. But how did I get involved in this? What in the world? Why am I involved in this whole thing? Well, let me tell you a little story. In 1988, my daughter Kimberly was born. September 6th, 1988. I was formulating cleaning products at that time in this area. I live in Oregon. I live over at Canby. But I traveled a lot. And when I was at Staples, I traveled extensively for Staples, the retailer. And I did a lot of work with them. But in 1988, it was a special year because my daughter was born. And a couple of months after she was born, I was standing in my laboratory and I was formulating some new cleaning products. Not green ones, traditional ones. And I was wearing gloves up to my elbows. I was wearing boots. I was wearing pretty much a hazmat suit. And around me right in front of me were all these beakers of all the ingredients that I was going to use to build these prototypes. and I had a fumed hood. I did all the things that I'm supposed to do, that I was taught to do to protect myself from those chemicals. And then there was an epiphany moment. There was an epiphany moment right then. And I said, what am I doing? What am I doing using these chemicals to put in these products to give to people who have an 8th grade education sometimes? And ask them to work with these cleaning products every day, spray them in the air, expose themselves to a, oh yeah, we tell them to wear gloves, but you know what? They won't, or they wear out. Exposure controls can and don't work. And in my mind, I'm going, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way. I have to be able to take all of this off that I'm wearing to protect myself to make these cleaning products. That was the opening moment where I began to think about sustainable earth. That was the products that Brittany talked about, that I designed. That line of products is still out there today. It's being sold internationally. But it started right here in Portland, Oregon. It started right here in Portland, Oregon in 1988 when I was standing there thinking about my daughter and thinking about her future and her kids' future and how important it was to make really smart decisions about the ingredients that go into the cleaning products that I'm making. See, that was an epiphany moment. That moment changed my life. It literally changed my life. Because my next thought was, how am I going to do that? How can I get this done? But then I thought, well, I'm going to need some help. I need to find ingredients that replace these ingredients. Not regrettable substitutes, not something that I'm going to just switch off one hazard ingredient for another, but something that truly changes and revolutionizes the cleaning products formulated world. And I had to go to Europe actually to find the early stages of it, because Europe had already been challenged through some regulations to move some of these ingredients that were in front of me out of those products. And so I reached out to my international folks. I reached out to chemical manufacturers, the leaders, the ones that were really doing something. Not the laggard ones that just kept making the old stuff and making excuses for it. But I was, I looked at the leader companies, and I found some materials that worked, and I began to build those products. And today, I stand here, but you see, I needed something else. Once I found the ingredients, then I needed something else. What else did I need? I needed inspiration. You know where I got inspiration from? Dr. John Warner, Dr. Paul Anastas. Anybody know those? Ever hear them? You know who they are? They're the fathers of green chemistry. They wrote the 12 principles in a book that I read. And I was so inspired that I wanted to meet them. I met both of them. I've spent, and right now they're in my Rolodex. I'm in their Rolodex. We can talk to each other. We talk often. They taught me. I got on the phone and I started talking to them. How do I do this? I need some help. And they were willing to reach out. So I needed that. I needed inspiration. They both are inspirational men, and introduced me to a lot more of inspirational men and women that have changed my life and helped me be who I am today. But then I needed one more thing. So I got that, and I understood green chemistry, the 12 principles. I began to apply that into the product design because I recognized that we needed to change the way we design products. We needed to get chemicals out of these products at the design stage so we didn't have to deal with them later. All of you are dealing with mistakes that were made 4 and 5 decades ago. Chemical companies and brands decided to use chemicals in products that today have polluted our world. And we're all working on that today, right? Trying to get them out. But I'm a believer that if you can do it at the front end, you can get these chemicals out of products at the design stage and never get there. They won't be there, so we won't have to deal with them that way. So it's kind of a preemptive strike, if you will. But then I needed one more thing, and that leads us to our topic today. I needed a credible, an independent, credible, something you could trust, an organization you could trust, a standard you could trust. And that's where I got introduced to EPA Design for the Environment. At that time, it was Design for the Environment. It wasn't Safer Choice yet. It became Safer Choice later. And I met incredible people at the EPA. Clyde David is still there, runs the Safer Choice program. David DeFiore, who retired from EPA just a couple of years ago. Outstanding human being, an attorney and scientist. Libby Summer, who left EPA and now works in business, right? How many people know Libby? Yeah. And so I was introduced to this program, and I recognized that self-gratification, that is, us thinking that we did all these wonderful things, taking these chemicals out of these products, was all we needed to do. But no, we needed to make it credible. We needed to be sure that they were tied to some standard that was real. And the thing I like about EPA Safer Choice is, and it's evolved, but today it is clearly the best when it comes to looking at chemicals in products. It looks at every chemical in the product. At every level, there is no threshold limit value they don't look at. They look at it all the way right down to the granular. And that's challenging for some companies, right? But so what? That means it will make us reach higher. And the Safer Choice program has done that for us. And so I applaud that program. I support that program. I've been doing it for 3 decades now. I'll continue to do it until my last breath. So then let me just leave with this before I hand this off to the real experts here. People often ask, Roger, why do you do this? When you're old enough now, you don't need the money, you can retire. Yeah, I can retire. I have a lot of friends of mine that retired, and some of them aren't with us anymore. But I'll tell you why I do it. 3 names: Alicia, Zachary, and Declan. Think of those names, right? That's my grandkids. You see, in a few years, it will be my turn to leave. You see, we all have an expiration date, right? We don't know what it is. I'm not trying to rush it. I'm not trying to get it there quicker. But one of these days will be my turn to say goodbye to this world. And when I leave, I want to look in the rearview mirror. And I want to see my 3 grandkids. And maybe I'll have more by then. But I would like to have them stand on the side of the road and wave. And say, thank you, Grandpa, for what you left for us. If I've done that, and you've done that, what else is there, right? Because we've left a world that gives them a chance, that gives them an opportunity. And unfortunately, my generation and generations before me have done a pretty poor job in many cases of this. I feel ashamed of that for my generation, but I've tried to do my part, and I'm going to try to do more before it's my time. But that's my answer. I do it for them. And you do it for your family too. You make it personal, and I'm sure you do, or you wouldn't be in this community. So let me get away, step away here, and hand it off to Kendra. So I think Kendra, you're up next.
How am I supposed to follow that? Thank you, Roger. This is my first time in front of a microphone in a few years, so I'm going to pretend like you guys are just on Zoom. But even though I'm a little nervous, I'm so grateful that I can be up here representing the EPA Safer Choice program. I'm a dog mom, I've got a little toddler at home, and I also have chemical sensitivities. I'm really allergic to fragrances, so the Safer Choice program is near and dear to me. I think about it every single day, decisions I make for myself and my family, so I can't think of a better program to be a part of that affects all of us on a day-to-day basis. There. You don't want to advance it back in the way. It's probably the easiest way. So, as Jimmy mentioned earlier, in April, the Safer Choice program moved from the pollution prevention branch to a small standalone branch, which is I think shows a really strong commitment for this administration. They care about Safer Choice. They want to make sure it has a chance to be independent and have the opportunity to strategically plan for the program. And so that's something that here in the regions we do a lot of. We spend a lot of time in outreach, figuring out how we can really support the program. So I'm not going to give a Safer Choice 101 today, so if you don't know much about the program, please find me afterwards. I'm happy to talk about the program. But really, I just want to really highlight it and get everyone really excited for potential changes from the program that are coming out of headquarters through this next administration, or through this administration. Roger mentioned a lot of the history of the program, starting with the early 90s, how it started as designed for the environment, and a lot of passionate people came to EPA asking for change. How can we do better? What can we do to make this a better world, right? How can we make sure we're using safer chemicals? And then I think there's another touch point is in 2015 when it went from design for the environment to the Safer Choice label that we know today. And I think those are important to mention as touch points where there's a huge groundswell and a huge interest and a huge public support for this type of work. And I think that's really important. So when we say, you know, people know that they can look at that label and know that it has been verified by the federal government, that people have done the work, that you can look at that and know it's safer for pets and animals. And I think we're kind of in that next phase of it too, right? With this administration is the next really touch point, and there's a huge amount of emphasis on the Safer Choice program. And I think that is really very, very exciting. To me, one of the things that I think makes the program very, very unique is the partnerships with businesses and manufacturers. You know, when a company comes and says they want to certify with the Safer Choice program, they know that their product that they want to certify is going to be looked at from every single chemical component, every residual, every fragrance, every little piece is going to be reviewed for the Safer Choice standard. And I think that's really, really important to make sure that the public knows that EPA has done due diligence in there. And so, you know, I think that partnership agreement, which is a 3-year agreement, is very, very important to show that relationship. Now that's really a very simplified 2-sentence version of how you certify products, and I know Lisa Cox will have a chance to talk a little bit more about the certification process and the lessons learned from doing the process, but I think that makes it so unique that EPA makes sure we look at everything for that product to make sure we are sure that they are safer products. And then once you certify, you have the opportunity to have one of these 4 labels. I'm sure everyone's very familiar with the first label, the consumer label. That's what you see in the grocery store. Or, and then the second label is industrial institutional use label. The third one, again, near and dear to my heart, is still with the fragrance sensitivity, is the fragrance-free label, which if a company would like to certify fragrance-free, they just have to make sure they are not including any fragrance products or fragrance chemical components in their certification. And that also means products that like a D-limonene, which is a fragrance, but also can be a degreaser. So those cannot be included. So that's a very, very unique label that's very, very important. And then the 4th label is the design for the environment label for antimicrobials, which I think in the past may have looked a little different. We're going to talk a little bit about that moving forward. So here are, again, all the product types for the Safer Choice program, which many of you are probably familiar with. You've got all-purpose cleaners, you've got dish detergents, pet care products, and then some of the products you might not be familiar with, automotive and outdoor care deicers. There's quite a few different categories for Safer Choice products. And then another category type is that fit for disinfectants. And that's really important coming out of the pandemic. I think we've all spent a long 2 years cleaning our homes more carefully, disinfecting our homes. And to know that there are safer disinfectants on the market is something very, very important and something that we need to make sure we're doing a really good job of sharing with the general public. So this here shows, I think it was last summer that Design for the Environment updated their label to look like the one on the left for you guys. It started out as that old Design for the Environment with the globe, but they updated it because they wanted people to make sure that they knew that it's the same standard as the Safer Choice program. So that's why they made that big change. It also just looks easier to know they know it's the same program. And when you think about what Design for the Environment means, it means it's a Safer Choice review. It has to meet all the Safer Choice standards, but then it also has an OPP review and a registration. Because it is a disinfectant, it's killing something, it's a kill agent, so it has to be registered as a pesticide. But those 2 things make the Design for the Environment certification. And then you can see here, I've listed the active ingredients that are currently allowed for the Design for the Environment certification. Some that you'll recognize, like hydrogen peroxide, which is in a lot of products, and others that are a little, I would say, not cutting edge, but ones that I'm not as familiar with, like Shizman. So those are the current certain active ingredients for Design for the Environment. Along with updating the label, they updated the website as well, so that it mirrors the Safer Choice search. If you guys have ever looked for a Safer Choice product, you can go online, put it in the product type, and find it. Well, that is now something you can do with Design for the Environment. You can put in the active ingredient or the product type, or if you want to confirm that it is actually registered with EPA, you can put that registration number in there as well. So this becomes a much more customer-friendly use of Design for the Environment, and also just shows that there are more products available now that are designed for the environment than they have been in the last few years. All this is really important. Again, it goes back to the administration's seeing how valuable the Safer Choice program is. And one way that comes across is also within the strategic plan. For the first time, I'm pretty sure, Safer Choice is listed directly in the strategic plan with very specific goals of adding more than 2,000 products by September 30th, 2026. So I think knowing that they want to plan very specifically for a date, they're going to strategic plan for what that means for their staff to meet those goals. And one thing that they've done is hired. I think when Safer Choice was part of the pollution prevention branch, I think there were 4 or 5 people who were just designated for Safer Choice, but you can see here the team has been built up under Clive. There's a lot of new people, new faces to the program. And this list here really is important to show you the different areas that people are focusing on at headquarters around Safer Choice. We've got toxicologists, people who are doing product review, and people focused on design for the environment, the gambit. So if there's any area around Safer Choice that you're interested in, these are the folks. We're happy to get you in touch with them if there's any specific questions. But really this is to say that they are gearing up for supporting certification process and for the outreach process around Safer Choice. And then speaking of outreach in general, the one thing that we do know about consumers is that they are interested in Safer Choice. This data was from 2020, right before the pandemic, but I think it does show that 89% of parents and millennials all would look for the Safer Choice logo and use it to inform their purchasing. And that's very, very valuable to know. But the bigger, I think, bullet is that second one where we only have 43% of consumers who are aware of the Safer Choice program. That's a pretty big discrepancy. So we see that if we can do a better job of getting out there and acknowledging the program, we can make a big change. And so I think that is going to hopefully change. We've got a national outreach campaign that Jenny touched upon earlier with a focus on 3 specific areas. The first one is reinvigorating the Safer Choice social media. If you go, if anyone with computers right now can go into the Safer Choice Facebook page, which has been really revamped. There's a lot of videos, like you said. You can see Jenny on there with her little daughter. There's a lot of posts, a lot of links. And also on Twitter, you can go to the EPA's agency, Safer Choice mentioned a lot. It's really important to get the word out there. Additionally, her team is working on a toolkit for partners that includes messaging. So for anyone who's already a Safer Choice partner, how do we help them make messaging decisions on Safer Choice and make it easier for the consumer to understand about the program? Headquarters is creating a lot of messaging about that, and they're going to be sharing with all the partners. And then third, there'll be the 2 outreach pushes that Jenny mentioned. The first one is coming this spring, the spring cleaning outreach campaign. And you can see here, very focused on consumers, pets, parents, but really also looking there at the overburdened communities and tribes and indigenous people. That's very, very new to some of the outreach that we've done, and we're very excited to engage and figure out how we can work with our communities to make sure the Safer Choice is known. We've got great partners in Region 10 in particular that have done this work. King County Hazardous Waste has done a lot of work working with local partners around Safer Choice and safer cleaning, and so we're really looking for other partners who are interested in any other ideas on how we can engage, especially for this outreach campaign in the regional perspective. Additionally, they'll have the Back to School campaign as well, which adds to those consumer groups, but also adds the I focus. So schools, healthcare facilities, sports facilities, hotels will also be included in there. So we're very excited to be able to partner with our local partners as well as headquarters to really, again, do a great big push on the Safer Choice label. But I still want to go back and continue to highlight the overburdened communities and tribes and indigenous people. Those are 2 areas or 2 community focuses that we really are passionate about, especially in Region 10. We are very excited, as Jenny mentioned, the new funding opportunity that's coming out around focusing around Safer Choice and the environmentally preferred purchasing program. The hope is to support communities with environmental justice concerns and help them increase the supply and demand around safer and more sustainable products. There's a lot of words here, but that's by design because this is the information we have about the grants. Everyone here is very familiar with the P2 grant process, so we know that the eligible applicants will be the states and state entities, like colleges, universities, but also federally recognized tribes and figuring out how we can, again, get the word out about this grant to federally recognized tribes is very, very important in the time that we have. I think the one very key thing that we mentioned before is that there's no match requirements for this grant program. Though grantees will be still providing technical assistance to businesses, there's still the opportunity to partner with local organizations to do so. So that's where we can find community organizations and partner with them around the Safer Choice program. So we're all very, very excited about that. That's coming out next year, but this year we still have the Partner of the Year announcements coming out November 1st. We're excited to announce that, and that's going to be announced at the Safer Choice Summit in Crystal City on November 1st. And the summit will be the 2nd and the 3rd, which just shows you all the Partner of the Year winners. If anyone thinks that they might want to apply for the Safer Choice Partner of the Year next year, please see us. We really want to make sure those who are doing great work around Safer Choice have the chance to get recognized. So please let us know if there's work, if there's anyone you partner with who does a lot of Safer Choice, please let us know. Let's see the next slide. This is just a reminder about the summit. Jenny mentioned it earlier, but we do want to make sure it's in DC, but it's also virtual. So if you cannot attend, go to DC in 2 weeks, know that there's an option to register virtually, and I think you've got like about another week or so to register. And you can see some of the agenda topics there. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to create a blueprint for how the Safer Choice program can move forward. With that, I just want to make sure we give you guys a bunch of the resources around Safer Choice. Like I said, there's a lot more materials online. We are here in the region. Kat and I are the Safer Choice points of contact for Region 10. Consider her my co-pilot in this work. But then in Region 9, we've got Megan here as well as the Safer Choice contact. And we are very, very excited for the opportunity to continue to work with all our partners. So thank you guys very much.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm just going to go through the slides to the next one and introduce myself really quick. If you could hold that for me. Part of being a rock star is getting everybody up and standing. So this is your time. Come on. Just everybody stand up for me. And we're going to just do a little movement. I was thinking the other day, just like 5 seconds ago, that Safer Choice is like the safety dance. So we're going to do a little Safer Choice safety dance. And just push play for me, because I can't teach and do this at the same time. Okay, so this is the only music I have. So just Safer chemicals. Grab the safer chemicals. There you go. Oh yeah, okay, that was goofy, I agree. But we got this all up. And now you'll remember the Safer Choice safety dance. I mean, how fun is that? So really quickly, we're going to go through a little bit of the program background for the Oregon DQ and PPRC program that we've implemented the last 3 years. I want to go through the background of the program to help us understand how we got here and how much energy and time it took for us to actually get to this place. We'll talk a little bit about the resources we've developed and then the lessons learned and barriers, which I think is a really interesting and just super informative part of the presentation. And since we won't get to do it all today or talk about it, please come up to our staff, our team, so that we can talk through that as much as possible. So it all started with the internship program, and I had been running that for about 5 years, and I was like, I got this. What else can I do? So I decided to think about other ways that we could incorporate the thoughts and ideas of green chemistry and toxic use reduction better into the internship program. And we'll be talking about the internship program in detail tomorrow, but basically it's a system or a program where we connect students with businesses for 10 weeks. We pay the interns a stipend. I think I have at least one. Yes, Angel, that you heard from earlier. So proud. of his work and what he's done. So it's a really great program that connects the students with businesses. And I wanted to see how we could support businesses to get Safer Choice certified through an intern. And I thought at that time that they could do a lot of the basic work, like collecting the data, putting it in a database, some things that they just didn't have capacity to do at that time. So we thought, let's try it. So in 2020, we decided to recruit businesses who might be interested in obtaining their Safer Choice certification. And luckily, we found 2 new companies, Good Clean Love and Oregon Soap Company, to pilot this with us, in addition to other pollution prevention projects that they were doing. And then to Funkify, they are the rock star actually, of Safer Choice, decided to do it as well, and we would provide this assistance for them. Since they were veterans, we thought maybe it may just be that they would help the other businesses or provide feedback as they were going along in the process, kind of like a mentor for the entire program. So the students did a lot of work that year. They collected data, they submitted data to the third-party assessors, and in the end, we learned a lot. I don't see my notes up here, so I'm a little decided. Anyway, okay, that's okay. We learned a lot, and we understood that the new product categories can be very, very tricky. I didn't mention this, but the Good Clean Love is a personal care product category, and they, it was a completely new area, and so we were just very thoughtful on how we could proceed with that. And was that sarcastic? I didn't mean it to be sarcastic. So we found out that just having a new product category takes a lot of time, and also EPA stuff, it's a conundrum for them. Seeing a new product come through, working on the details of that is just another layer that we didn't really expect to come through or come across. Small businesses, all of those businesses have staff of under 25. So we're talking about very small businesses that are doing that work. And the staff capacity is very limited. So that was another really, telling thing that we learned. There's a wide range of estimated costs that we found when we sent the data to the third-party assessors, and we couldn't really figure out why. So we were just very confused on why there was such a range, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that was some of the first things that we learned. The time frame for approvals for those chemicals also was very different between each company. So just another lesson that you can't really say, it takes 2 weeks. It can take 2 to 40 weeks. So it was a really good lesson on that part as well. And also the last thing, the process is pretty complicated. The interns did their best, but it's really pretty high level work. And some of the companies like to Funkify, they have super scientists on staff. But, maybe Good Clean Love, they don't have a toxicologist, they don't have a person dedicated to looking at, toxicology or formulas in that way. So it was another piece that we definitely learned. From that, we recognized fully that having a few things would be really nice, and we sent these messages up to the EPA that having auto-improved ingredients would be just really beneficial. And having a national approved list would also go really far. So I think that was a huge thing for us to recognize and pass on. So during that first year, I wanted to just recognize that with some of the businesses that they were looking at costs for up to like $250,000 to get certified for, it's in my notes, but how many products was it, like 7? It was I know, I'm looking for Michelle, but we can talk about the details. But even with this one, the other part of it that a requirement was that they were going to have to do a consumer research study to help understand what the label meant for people who were buying their products. They didn't want to confuse a Safer Choice label with the products that they were selling, which are personal lubricants. So they wanted to make sure that that was not being confused. So that was another $8,000 that we weren't expecting. The lessons learned with the Oregon Soap Company were vast. Anhel can speak more to that. But they submitted, and they just got another huge price tag, and that was about $120,000. And although they were willing to do that, it was during COVID. They were so just overwhelmed with everything that was happening that they just couldn't go forward with it. They have a couple other certifications, and this one just seemed really complicated to them, so they dropped the process. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
So Lisa, that was 8 products, I think, that was $100,000 or something for Oregon Soap Company. That's why, so it's not that much per product.
Right. Yeah, that was for 8 different ones, yeah. And then the Defuncify, their lessons were more about the time frame. With the EPA staff changing from maybe, like 15 to 5, there was just less capacity. And so their timeline for getting things approved almost tripled. So that was another good lesson that we just had to incorporate. Oh, thank you so much. So the next step was, even with all those lessons, we're like, we're going forward, we're gonna try this. And so with the help of our great partners, the PPRC, we obtained funding from several different sources, including DEQ, 2 different sources from EPA, and we went forward. And we wanted to create resources. We wanted to recruit at least 5 businesses to get products certified, and through that provide hands-on technical assistance from an expert. We realized that having an intern doing that work was just not enough. So we developed a guidance manual, and with that, we had a lot of details on how to obtain the certification that just aren't on the website right now for the EPA. And I think it has timelines and costs and details that knowing up front, the business can be like, hey, this is either too much or yeah, we can handle it. It just sets the expectations. So we're continually updating that manual, and I think it's been amazing because we have tons of lessons learned now that we are able to incorporate into it. We developed a basic web page that has an application for businesses to apply to get the technical assistance, a handbook that describes the program. It's a basic 7-page thing that shows that it's a non-regulatory free program for businesses to participate in. And then after that, we started outreach. And of all the businesses in Oregon, yes ma'am.
Sorry. So I don't think you mentioned that the $5,000 that we're going to include as an incentive, it's part of the grant?
Yes, yeah, that's true. We have about 150 hours of direct technical assistance and $5,000 to offset the cost. Now, when you're looking at $200,000, it's a small amount, but hey, it's something so we're maybe just what we need to get the company on board. So when we started to conduct outreach, we identified the number of businesses who were already eligible. No new product categories this time. We're gonna have to work with that. So of all the businesses in Oregon, we have about 20 that are actually eligible. So you can think, kind of narrows down that pool a bit, but we did a lot of research, or a lot of outreach, direct phone calls. Michelle was like, I will go visit their site and just knock on their door. We were trying very hard to get folks on board. And, eventually we did. We got a couple. We went through, or we got with Walla, we got really far. And then in the end, they decided to not participate after they have done a lot of their own research. They're scientists like Defuncify. And they had done a lot of research on making sure their products didn't have toxic chemicals. And they felt like when they had to do the assessment again and pay for it, they felt a little, hurt, I think, that they had to get it again. So they were like, oh, we know our products are awesome, so we don't need the certification, basically. And then Oregon Soap Company came back, and we're so grateful because now we found a couple errors that we accidentally submitted 7 of the same ingredients to be assessed, so it's cutting down the cost significantly. Anhel and Michelle from the PPRC are working hard on that. And we're learning again that, hey, we need to look very closely at the ingredients that are being submitted so that they aren't being submitted 7 times, basically. And then Defuncify, they have their own lessons that they might be able to share today. But, you know, they submitted some products and they got it back because they didn't realize that maybe there was just a little bit too much of one thing. And that I won't say because I know you have lots of proprietary information. But you'll share some lessons learned. I know I'm trying to go really fast because I know that we're a little late. So in the outreach lessons, it's difficult. I think the outreach to the businesses in the end is just very difficult. They're really excited at the beginning, and then they see that manual, they see all the steps, they see the expertise that's required, and they're like, wow, this is daunting. And you know, in Oregon, we have a lot of very small and medium-sized businesses. So that's kind of the factor that we have to think about. And you know, the incentives, the $5,000 just really isn't enough. We thought it would be, and it was like, hey, it would be nice, but it's just not enough to get them over the edge. I just wanted to go very quickly over the base costs, and you can just see them here. I'm not going to go through that in detail, but it varies widely. But here's the basics. So the standard base fee at $1,000 per product, and then if not a certified clean ingredient, it can be around, you know, starting at $1,000. So it's a lot of variety. We're trying to get cost information as we go along and hoping to share that, which is another tricky part. But we're compiling that in the manual. And again, that timeline for certification varies significantly based on so many factors. But we want to give the companies at least some understanding of how long it might take. So this is the number that Michelle and the team has come up with. With all that said, you know, again, that recruitment, we're not really reaching the 5 businesses that we thought we could, so we're looking at a different approach. And right now we have a little bit of funding to think about upstream and how we might instead get chemicals on the list instead. So on skill, on clean ingredients, so that businesses can essentially, when they're building a product, they can just pick from those ingredients that have already been assessed and approved. So we're hoping to remove some of the barriers of certification by getting common ingredients on that list as much as we can and focusing upstream. Okay, that's a lot. The contacts that you'll see here are myself, Brittany, and Michelle. But I don't do much of the work, honestly. It's Michelle and Brittany who are doing the bulk of the hands-on work, and they have the information about the details of the program. So with that said, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for dancing and getting up out of your seats with me. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Roger and Lisa and Kendra and everyone here for all the work you do. And Roger got me really pumped up with this introduction here. It's really inspiring, and it's an honor to be here with everybody and hear all about great things we're all working on to try to help produce pollution and do our part. So anyways, thanks again. And you know, I'm here to talk about Defunctify's experience with the Safer Choice program. And wasn't going to mention my daughter, but she's 2, and Roger got me thinking about her, and that's clearly the reason behind what I do. She thinks I make bubbles all day. She doesn't quite understand green chemistry, but I'll work on that with her as time progresses. And yeah, she really is why I do what I do. And so, sorry, let me get my notes together here. It's also been a while since I've been out of the lab. So what brought Defunctify and the Safer Choice program together was our mutual interest in green chemistry. So when I was in grad school at UO down in Eugene, they had a green chemistry seminar. It was actually facilitated by Professor Jim Hutchinson, who was actually one of the founders of Defunctify, and didn't know it at the time that I was going to be working for them, but learning the principles from him was really inspiring, and they stuck with me, and I love how they can be applied from everything, whether it's you can apply it to anything, fertilizer manufacture, of course, cleaning product formulation, and yeah, that's what we do at Defunctify. We use green chemistry to formulate safer cleaning products that are high performance, and I love hearing from people that, you know, we've solved their cleaning problems, we've saved their favorite hoodie from the garbage, or we've helped them alleviate a skin issue they had from using a different product. So we love hearing stories like that, and it helps inform us in our process what we're doing and getting us feedback that it matters. So Defunctify been a Safer Choice partner since 2019. We're proud that in 2020 and 2021 we won the Safer Choice Partner of the Year for demonstrating leadership in formulation of safer cleaning products using safer ingredients. And we're very proud to receive that award and hope to continue to do our best. My slides got a little mixed up here, but we follow the principles of green chemistry here, and we have our flagship liquid laundry detergents, fragrance free, it's 100% skin safe, rated by the Mayo Clinic. We also have USDA's 87% bio-based rating, and we apply the principles of green chemistry to all our products that we formulate, including our new automatic dishwashing detergent, which was just recently certified the Safer Choice program a few weeks ago, and now for sale on our website, so we're really excited about that. So being a Safer Choice partner helps Defunctify do our job better, essentially. They give us resources, and one of the main ones is the safer chemical ingredient list that was discussed. It's really a database, you can search it, you can look for surfactant, you can look for a solvent that's approved and has all of the toxicology information available, and there's just a wealth of research that's gone into constructing that. It's our starting point for our formulation process, and it's really great, it's so useful, and it works well in combination with the Clean Ingredients website, another database that actually has the safer chemical ingredient list is just the ingredient itself, and the Clean Ingredients database is the trade name or the manufacturer, the brand of the ingredient. So that's really helpful in where we start, and then we proceed. And the partnership with the Safer Choice program helps us build business relationships with our suppliers, ingredient manufacturers. It gives us credibility when we ask hard questions about what preservative is in the surfactant, or is there any 1,4-dioxane left over from the manufacturing process. We get attention when we ask these questions, and we have a reason to ask them. It's about our Safer Choice certification, so that it really helps improve the relationship we're able to get through to people in the labs, chemical manufacturers, and they're happy to hear their efforts in green chemistry are being appreciated and demanded, and that they're happy to produce extra information they might not publish elsewhere to help make sure we can get our certification. With our marketing, our main strategy and communications is highlighting our Safer Choice partnership. We like to point out the label. We appreciate the extra resources for marketing available from the EPA, like the one we see here. And we really feel like the third-party certification gives us credibility when we talk about our products being safer, and also about their performance, because the label requires that you do performance testing and verify your products actually perform what you say they're doing. So that's helpful as well. Speaking about the business partnerships, we have a major chemical manufacturer that likes to call Defunctify their poster child for rapid growth in safer ingredient sales. When we first talked with them, I was mixing 5-gallon buckets of cleaning product, and now we're making tens and hundreds of thousands of pounds of these same products, and so they've seen us grow like that, and they're seeing the value in using safer ingredients and providing them, and that there's a demand for them that they can help meet. Another benefit besides the marketing strategy is just the exposure we get from referencing our partnership with EPA. We've had over 12 million consumers see our advertising referencing the partnership, which is awesome. We know that's going to continue to grow over time. And then not talked about as much, but consumer safety, working conditions with people who are manufacturing the raw ingredients, their higher concentrations, all the way, people blending the final products, people using the products, people transporting the ingredients, the communities in which these ingredients are produced. Demand for safer, less toxic ingredients is helping to reduce chemical exposure. The whole route from the initial manufacture to final blending, and then the use, and whether it's going down the drain or not. So we had a worker, speaking of fragrance-free products, I'm a big fan of them as well. We had a worker who said, they previously made a product that had a synthetic fragrance that was making their eyes water when they're working during their day manufacturing it, even with proper safety equipment, and they're happy to be blending our fragrance-free detergent instead and not have their eyes watering during the work day, so that's nice to hear. And as a formulation chemist, I really appreciate the EPA's mandate for us to continue to improve our product safety over time. So that's actually part of the certification label is every 3 years you have to say what efforts you've made to continue to improve the safety of the product. And I like that not just because of the job security it provides, but also because it helps give us safer products and it challenges us. And it's good for our business to continue to improve, and it's also good for the environment. So that's a nice feature that I really appreciate. And while the benefits are totally worth it, I was asked to speak about a few barriers to the certification process and in partnership with the Safer Choice program. So clearly it takes time, money, there's some additional knowledge you have to have and training potentially. There's, slinky was the best way to show this, but reduced flexibility in terms of adjusting the supply chain issues, things like that, and then you potentially have to share more proprietary information that the company might prefer to otherwise. So the application fees can be a shock, but there's assistance available from the grants, there's interns, from PPRC, EPA, DEQ, and that really made a difference for people. It was not just a drop in the bucket, it really helped in our case, and that's the case for the company that appreciated it. And there's also consultants available, there's manuals published like Lisa referenced that can help you learn from other people and their mistakes and not have to repeat all those, which all help save time ultimately. And we've come across companies that have chosen not to participate or work with us because of the requirement to disclose information they prefer to keep as a trade secret. We haven't found that to be an issue at all. We found we're able to disclose what's necessary for people to make informed decisions about what they're exposing themselves to and still protect IP. We still have patents. We're able to protect formulation specifics. We're able to protect manufacturing processes. And we believe that the transparency and the benefit we have from people being able to trust our brand and our products is way more valuable than any proprietary information that we might be otherwise disclosing. So we don't see this as an issue, but I'll talk a little bit about addressing some of these barriers and being upfront with a manufacturer or whoever you're working with, saying this is going to be Safer Choice certified. Are you willing to disclose what's required? And I wrote down to talk about with you, Jenny, actually, is just having a list of like what company's going to need to disclose, because I'll ask them, are you willing to help us work to get the certification? Well, what do we need to share? Whatever they ask you for, I don't know. So as somebody who's formulated a number of Safer Choice products, I was asked to share some tips and just taking advantage of partnerships, looking for resources, whether it's a grant, an internship, working with consultants can all help minimize the time it takes to get your product to market. And they can, participating in the program can potentially delay the time it takes to get your product to market if you don't plan ahead. So planning ahead is really a big part of this, to get your spreadsheet together, CAS numbers, trade names, chemical names, all of that ahead of time. Check the pricing, make sure it works for your company. Using the ingredients database and knowing that an ingredient is going to be able to be used ahead of time streamlines the process. It's also cheaper if it's on the database, so having more products available on that database would be a huge help, and it's a great resource, and just eliminating any uncertainty ahead of time is great, and especially with all the supply chain issues today. There is some reduced flexibility if all of a sudden plant making sodium silicate shuts down, there's no sodium silicate available, or at least not the brand you registered. What do you do? Do we just not have product on the shelves? Do we abandon our certification? Do we abandon the label? That kind of puts you in a tough position, but anticipating that and planning ahead, registering multiple alternatives for an ingredient ahead of time so they're available if need be, and knowing that they're going to be within the standards of the program ahead of time is really great. And If you can align your reformulation, any changes you want to make to a product with the registration renewal, which happens every 3 years, that can save time and money as well, and just be a good chance to opportunity to make any changes to your label or ingredients. We had an incident with the snowstorm in Texas a few years ago, knocked off a power grid. One of our ingredients wasn't available. We needed to schedule production, we needed to get product on the shelves, we didn't know what to do, we didn't have any alternatives registered. We contacted the EPA and let them know the situation, and they were really helpful. It really is a partnership. They're not trying to put us out of business. You know, we called around, we said, hey, do you have any surfactants that are biodegradable and non-ionic with an HLB range, 8 to 10 or something? If we found some alternatives, tested them in the lab, let the EPA know, and they said, helped us find a path forward essentially, and we were able to maintain our certification and also continue to get product on the shelf that we knew was going to be as safe as possible. And so it was a little bit concerning at first, but ultimately, they're flexible, they're great, responsive, willing to help. Work with other government agencies where that's, I don't know if anybody's ever tried to work with the ATF, they'll reply. The EPA, that's not the case. I think you're back very timely and get a wealth of information and helps. So that's real nice to know. We continue to look forward to our, continuing our relationship with the Safer Choice program, and they like to say at P2West that it helps us to complete our mission of getting the funk out of the industry.
Thank you to the panelists, Kendra, Lisa, Dave, well done. Excellent. We need to move on because there's another session coming, so we don't have time for questions, or do we?
Nope.
Okay, that's all right.
Unfortunately, but take note of who's up here, please contact.
Just one last thing. I believe this program does something that's extraordinary in the sense of shared value. It creates shared value for the company, for the customer, and for the community. That is extraordinary. Remember, you can have all three. Thank you very much.